Welcome back to the Cumbie Show, where we tell it like it is and we don't care how you feel. And this week is a good one. We've got Georgia going on the road to take on the Tennessee Volunteers. At the time of recording this video, depending on where you look, Georgia is sitting at around 10.5-point favorite. That still could change as the week progresses. I am recording this on a Tuesday afternoon before the updated college football playoff rankings come out. I will have a video either later tonight or tomorrow morning reacting to the updated playoffs, kind of my thoughts on it. Did they get it right? Did they get it wrong? Kind of things like that. But Georgia is still number 2 in the playoff rankings. I believe Tennessee is around 13. They're a top 15 team at this time. But back to this game. Georgia on the road at Tennessee. It's a 3:30 kickoff over there on CBS. Like I said, Georgia's a 10.5-point favorite. You know how I do come around and say it. I'm taking Georgia to win, and I am taking Georgia to cover. And the more that I looked into this game, it kind of reassured my thoughts on this game at taking Georgia to win and to cover. There's quite a few reasons why. And we'll jump into all that. We'll jump into the stats. But it's this Georgia offense. This Georgia offense is playing lights out. They look like they are getting better and better each and every week. They are getting hot at the right time of the season. We know Georgia's coming off a dominating win against Ole Miss, and Tennessee is coming off a very tough loss on the road against Mizzou last week. A humiliating loss. I mean, that was a piss-poor performance on both sides of the ball. Even looking at that game, I don't know what happened. It was an ugly game. Can Tennessee bounce back this week? Do they still have any fight left in them? Can they put up anything at this steamroll of a team in Georgia to even put up a fight? I think they can. I think they do, but I don't think they get the win, and I do think Georgia wins by a couple scores, 14-17. So I think they cover the 10.5 points. And the reason being is, like I said, the more I looked at the numbers, I think this is a statistical matchup nightmare for Tennessee. Not statistical, just matchup nightmare for Tennessee. For a couple of reasons, with mostly just being, I don't trust Joe Milton. And I don't know if they have the horses in the barn to keep up with Georgia for 4 full quarters. Because we've seen what Georgia can do on offense. They will give up a touchdown or 2 early in the game, and then they just rip off 28 to 35 points back to back to back, unanswered. And the next thing you're looking at, you're like, holy shit, Georgia's up 38-10. Where did that come from? You know, kind of like last week where it seemed like it was going to be a competitive game in Georgia and Ole Miss, where it was 14-14 in the first half, and then Georgia just rips off 28 unanswered points. Next thing you know, it's 35-14 or 45-14 in the fourth quarter. You're like, well, Jesus, you know? So that's kind of the way that this offense has been playing. And this whole team has been playing this season, especially here lately. And I don't think that's a good thing for Tennessee, because people like to think that Tennessee is now they are a very high tempo, fast tempo type team where they go on offense. They like to run the ball quick. But the thing is if you get behind in that style of offense, it can become really hard to catch up, and you're putting your defense on the field a lot longer than what they need to be. That's not good. That's the problem, the issue that I have with this type of offense. And I just don't know if Tennessee has what it takes to do that for 4 full quarters against this team and against this Georgia defense. I think they'll put up a couple points. I think they'll put up some points, especially early in the game, but I don't think they're going to do it through 4 full quarters. And Georgia and Kirby Smart are probably the best team in the country when it comes to adjusting. Halftime adjustments, even in-game adjustments, they are one of the best to ever do it when it comes to adjusting to what you're doing. Like I said, you may come out like we've seen most teams come out and score on this Georgia defense the first drive, maybe even the second drive, or maybe 2 of the 3 first drives. But after that, this defense settles in and they shut you down. And with the style of offense that that Tennessee runs, a lot of people like to think that they are a passing heavy team, that they pass the ball more. But they don't. They actually run the ball significantly more. And looking at the numbers, they've ran the ball more than Georgia has. Georgia's more of a passing team this year than Tennessee is, kind of like last year, honestly. But Tennessee's sitting at 378 rushing attempts on the season, and they've only got 313 passing attempts on the season. Georgia is sitting at 345 passing attempts for 344 rushing attempts. So Georgia is I said a while ago that they're much more of a passing team, but they are a very balanced team. Georgia's a very balanced run to pass ratio, basically 50-50, where Tennessee is a lot more reliant on the run. They are the type of team where they are more of a play-action type style, where they heavily rely on the run game to get going, to keep that defense honest, and then they can take shots downfield. But the problem with that is that if you can't get the run game going, and then you have to rely on the pass to move the ball, I don't trust Joe Milton to do it. I do not trust Joe Milton to put the ball where it needs to be in crucial times. And you cannot do that against this Georgia defense. If you get into a obvious passing down situation on this Georgia defense, they are going to eat you up. They have all season long for years, especially under this Kirby Smart reign. It's not a good situation to find yourself in. And I think that is why that this game could get ugly. Even being at home, I think that this game could get ugly for Tennessee, because a lot of things have to go right for Tennessee. Tennessee has to play their A++ game, be extremely disciplined, and Georgia's got to come out and play one of their worst games of the season, in my opinion, for Tennessee to have a shot at winning this game. And I just don't see that happening. I don't. I think that Georgia knows what they're fighting for, and they have agenda, and it is to three-peat, plain and simple. It's to beat Tennessee, it's to beat Georgia Tech, it's to beat Alabama, and then whoever they face up in the college football playoffs. And I don't see Tennessee getting in the way of that. And to get more back into the actual statistics of it, instead of just spouting out the mouth, to actually put some evidence, some proof to it, Georgia is one of the best teams when it comes to third down conversion rate on offense and defense, stopping teams from converting on third down and picking up the first down on third down on offense. They are in the top 10 in total offense and defense. They are number 7, top 10 for the fewest sacks allowed per game. So this offensive line is cooking. I believe last week that offensive line deserved the game ball. And they are getting better when it matters most. And so there's a lot of things that are kind of lending me picking Georgia in this game, and I'm kind of sounding like a Georgia homer, and I mean, I am a Georgia fan, but we got to be honest. We got to look at this game. We got to look at the stats, and we have to be honest with ourselves. This game could get ugly. Now, I'm not saying that Tennessee doesn't have a chance at winning this game. Like I said, I think they need a couple of things to go right for them to win this game, but they definitely can do it. And here's where I think Tennessee. So if you're a Tennessee fan, listen to this, because here's where I think you need things to go. This is what you need to do. Georgia's weakness, and they don't have many, but Georgia's weakness is on their defense in a very particular area. It is red zone defense. I think they are the worst team in the SEC. I could be wrong. You can look it up and tell me in the comments. But I believe they are the worst team in the SEC when it comes to defensive red zone. If you get in the red zone on this defense, you are scoring a touchdown. I think the last 13 times a team has gotten in the red zone, they've scored all 13 times, some outrageous number. Teams that get in the red zone on this Georgia defense will score a touchdown, plain and simple. That's what Tennessee needs to do. But here's the problem. Georgia's defense is really good at preventing teams from getting in the red zone. They are almost lights out at doing that. And that's what Tennessee, I believe Tennessee's key to success for this game is to get to the red zone. Now, here's the thing. You're not going to be able to line up and just run the ball on this Georgia defense. You're not going to. And if you do that, you're going to become extremely one-dimensional, and you are going to get ate up. So like I gave in my Georgia Ole Miss preview and prediction, it is basically the same formula for this game. And I had a guy comment in there saying that I was wrong, but it proved to be right. You got to get explosive plays. You have to hit explosive. Joe Milton has got to play the game of his life, and he's got to be perfect. And when I mean perfect, I don't mean completing every pass. I mean that he cannot be turning the ball over. And when there is a deep shot, he's got to take it and he's got to hit it. Because you have got to get behind this Georgia defense, hit haymakers, and get in that red zone. Because if you don't, they're going to force you to go 3 and out. You may pick up a first down here and there, but they will force you to go 3 and out, and they will smother you. They will get you in 3rd and long, and you will get stopped. That is one of the most crucial aspects, keys to this game for Tennessee, in my opinion. If they can do that, I think that they have a good chance, especially with this game being at home. I think they have a good chance of winning. But they have to hit those long balls, those explosive plays, those deep runs to get into the red zone to be able to score on this Georgia defense. And I think they need to do it early, from the get-go. We've seen that teams can score early on this Georgia defense. Go back and look against Florida, Ole Miss. I think Vanderbilt even did, if I'm not mistaken. Mizzou. I mean, teams score on their first drive against this Georgia defense the majority of the season. You might as well just go ahead and give the opposing team a touchdown. So this is kind of going into my keys of the game. My keys of the game for Tennessee is to hit on explosive plays, get in the red zone. If you can find yourself in the red zone, you're going to be scoring a touchdown a lot more often than not. You got to start early and fast, and you got to keep that momentum going. And you've got to find a way to attack that O-line for Georgia. Like I've said, this is probably the one of the best offensive line now. I wouldn't say that in the beginning of the year, but now at this time of the season, this is the best offensive line in the country. You cannot convince me otherwise. They went into last game against Ole Miss. This Georgia offensive line went into last game against Ole Miss, facing a team that was number 3 in the SEC in sacks, and number 2, I believe, top 5 in tackles for loss in the SEC. Georgia allowed 0 of both. 0 sacks and 0 tackles for loss. Carson Beck has had all day to throw these past few games, and they are creating amazing holes for our running backs. So I don't need to keep buttering up this Georgia team. Well, we've all seen it. We've seen the dominating factor of them for the past 3 years. This Georgia offense is finding its groove, connecting on cylinders, not to mention that Brock Bowers is back and extremely healthy. Ladd McConkey is a fucking dynamite of a guy. Kendall Milton, everywhere you look, there's weapons on this Georgia offense. You don't need me to tell you that. So you have got to find ways to attack this offensive line if you're this Tennessee defense, to get pressure on Carson Beck, to create some type of turnovers or something. And I think just pray that you can get something. Because if you don't hit on one of these, I think you're losing the game. Now, my keys to the game for Georgia is kind of the counter opposite of that. Just do what you do and stop explosive plays. Stop the explosive plays, shut down that run game, and just play discipline. Stay disciplined with it being on because that crowd is going to be raucous. It's going to be loud. They're going to come with energy. And if Georgia can shut this run game down for Tennessee, which they rely heavily on to set up the pass, Joe Milton will become very one-dimensional. And I do not trust Joe Milton. If you have to tell me that the game is going to be relied on Joe Milton's arm, I'm betting my whole life savings on the other team. If you can get pressure after Joe Milton, stop that run game, and make him one-dimensional and force him to throw, you've got the game in the bag already, no matter where you're playing. And with this being an away game for Georgia, especially at Tennessee, that is not an easy place to play. You gotta give it to those fans. Those fans are loud, they're raucous, they are passionate about the Bulls. I don't know why, because y'all have had years of misery. But play discipline. Georgia's one of the most disciplined teams. They're one of the least penalized teams in the country. Just keep that going. On the other hand, Tennessee is one of the most penalized teams in the country. I have the numbers here for the penalties. I don't know if I said it earlier in the video, but I'll say it again. Tennessee has 85 penalties on the season. 85. Georgia has 44. Tennessee has double the amount of penalties that Georgia does on the season. That's not good. I don't care whether you're home or away. You cannot shoot yourself in the foot, especially against a team like this in Georgia. That's insane. 85 penalties this season? What the fuck? That's bad. But back to it. Like I said, I think Georgia wins. I think they find a way to win this game by a couple of scores, anywhere from 14 to 17 points, even with it being on the road. I just don't think that Tennessee has what it takes to line up and match up against this Georgia team for 4 full quarters. Maybe the first quarter, but I don't trust Joe Milton, and I don't trust Joe Milton to hit the plays that he's going to need to hit to stay in this game. I'll give him 1, I'll give him 2 earlier in the game, but I don't think he's able to hit 6, 7, 8, 9 explosive plays a game. I don't think he's able to hit 7 throws for 20-plus yards to keep this offensive momentum going. I don't think that their offensive line is able to create holes on this defense to run through for a 12-yard or 15-yard or 22-yarder here and there. So I think that's where the issue is going to lie. I think it's that Georgia is going to be able to stop Tennessee from getting to the red zone, and you're going to see another game where you turn this game on early, and it is going to be a close 14-10, 14-14, 17-14 type game, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in the middle of the third, and it's 38-13, and you're like, what the fuck happened? And Georgia's running away with it. But nonetheless, I think this is going to be a very exciting game, a very fun game. Like I said, it's Georgia's last SEC game of the season until they play Alabama in the championship. And I'm just really curious to see if Tennessee has any fight left in them. As a Tennessee fan, how do y'all feel about the season? Coming off last year, you had that phenomenal season, taking down Alabama, beating LSU, then beating Clemson. I mean, y'all had a great season. Now this has kind of, in my opinion, been a disappointing, underwhelming, underperforming season. How do y'all feel, Tennessee fans? Do y'all actually think you have a chance in this game? And if so, what do y'all want to see from your Volunteers? Or what do you think you need to see to get this dub? But that's my thoughts. That's my opinion, my preview and prediction of this Georgia-Tennessee game. Like I said, I'm taking Tennessee to win. Or not Tennessee. Hell no, not Tennessee. I'm taking Georgia to win and Georgia to cover the 10.5 points. Other than that, fuck you, Tennessee. Over and out.